That is kind of the joke, though. It's like I do have a hard time sometimes putting my work out because I'm working on everybody else's stuff and helping them, and also finding time to get in the studio is always a challenge in itself. So JD was very patient with me. So because I was dealing with some stuff and I was just like, oh, I think I can. And then in the form of text, some little Facebook posts, and this and that, he did kind of push me over the edge, and I was able to at least produce some work for the show. So I'm really glad that he kept prodding at me. So primarily, I won't talk about my book writing stuff because that is relatively my craft. That's what I do with the schools and stuff like that. Haven't been, I'll go in and out of that. That's sort of a seasonal thing for me. Like if I feel like really robotic, I hold paper, not paper, so paper, do this and that. And the design process isn't in that. And sometimes a person needs that. It's like a production line to kind of get me in the mood to paint. Seldomly will you see the two going on at one time, otherwise you will see paint on books, and it just doesn't jive in my head. And so, I brought some, but I haven't been able to do that because I've been working on these paintings for the past year. The grid concept, and I ended up bringing a piece that I did about a year and a half ago on New Year's Eve, on a sewing night, that sort of thing, in my studio at the Flatiron in St. Cloud, and where I laid out 3 panels of paper, wet them down, and then just started hitting them with India ink. And I wasn't sure why I was doing this, and in hindsight now I know why I was doing it. But I actually had a friend of mine, after about 6 months of doing grids, these large grids that also turned into small grids, which also turned into medium-sized grids, based on my own posture and my position in front of the artwork. It was weird because that was what my logic was. I was being very robotic in creating these, but I wasn't so structured that I was like cleaning up after myself. I was letting it drip and letting it make a mess and all this. And I realized 6 months after doing that for a while, Alan, my board president, was saying, I think you're trying to find order. You're trying to create order out of the chaos that was going on in life. So I brought that piece here because I figured that was where the grids started. It also made me very aware of the grids existing in previous works from college and from, when I didn't even care about what I was doing, sorry. Sorry, Mom, Dad. I wasn't really paying attention to what I was doing in college. I don't know what I was doing. But I was studying architecture and talking about space and systems and all that, and I realized that I was subconsciously putting these structures under my paintings. So it wasn't about subject, it was about space. It was about, playing around with that. So it just came back to haunt me just 13 years later, that's all. And then once you notice it, you start noticing everything you do. So that's what that did. And so what ended up happening was a year and a half goes by, and then that's where the other piece over there on the opposite side of it ended up being sort of another exploration of the grids, but I was allowing myself to add color. I was feeling more aggressive with the attack of the paint and everything like that. And it's a very I'd say intuitive process to do abstract work, but it's also a very intellectual process. So a lot of times you sit there and you make a decision, and then you talk to yourself while you're doing it. Why did I just do that? Oh, I did this. You have this sort of duality going on in your brain while you're working on an abstract piece. I'm not trying to get somewhere. I'm not saying that it has to look this way. It has to be, that's the right decision. Good. Move on. Or that's the wrong decision. Edit out. Fight it. Like I fought this one. I hung it, hated it, brought it home, worked on it some more, brought it back. And so this process of the thing is right before I had to I don't have to find the right phrase, but I had to make a decision on whether I was going to present this body of work, because everything was partially started, and I didn't want to issues, which, you know, it's hard when you go through that. Anybody who works in the arts knows that physically you have to be able to do it. Otherwise it won't happen. And I think that piece over there, which a lot of people connect to, was I was in the most pain doing that because I'd come in and work for 10 minutes and then I'd walk away and then go do my other job and try to play catch up on all this other stuff and realizing that I could only sit or stand for 10, 15 minutes and then I had to either change my position or lay down, which I hated, you know, not doing. You can't, you know, but you know, I was having a hard time physically accomplishing it. It's great though because my physical therapist was the one who looked at that and says, I love it, you know, and I'm like, well, congratulations, you know. She fixed me, so she might get it. But, you know, so I think when talking about abstract work, there's only a few people who work and comfortably work in that in our region, and are able to discuss it. I've had a hard time, and as artists, I mean, you know, we've had discussions about art, but I have a hard time having this conversation. And so, as I was working on this, I came to terms with it. You listen to classical music, and you're not thinking necessarily of the composer and what they did, but you're listening to the piece, right? And it's NPR, so it could be going for 8, 9 minutes, you know, and it's done, I guess, and then they have the next voice talking about some anecdote that is annoying, but they talk about Gary's not here, is he? Anyway, but then they go on to another piece, but they don't say it's going to be 3.5 minutes long. If you listen to KCLD, you may have a good beat to it, but it's 3.5 minutes long, and it's done, and moves on to the next one. And that was so-and-so, and that was their new song, greatest hit this summer. And that's the experience. So I'm comparing these two different experiences, and I'm not saying that we don't have a 3.5 minute, you know, great song to listen to. And has memory and has this, and you can, so, you know, you still appreciate it as an art or as a art piece. But then when you're talking about the composition of a classical piece, I don't think that composer went and said, this needs to be 3.5 minutes long. Or this has to be this, and it has to be that, or it has to have a chorus. I don't think that's how they think, you know? And I found that if I made a decision on grids, if I made a decision on houses, or even when I did laundry I had way more of the 3-minute conversation in my head when I did the laundry pieces. But at the same time, for these other pieces, it's like I could work on it for days. I worked more on these pieces. You know, I think I had these on the wall for months of just struggling with them than I did on some of these larger pieces, because I could dance with the larger pieces much easier than, you know, some of these smaller pieces where it changed my posturing, it changed how I did things. So it was just, that's just what I'm going to say, as you can appreciate or love, hate, or whatever, or be confused, or simply like it. But at the same time, that's what I wanted to say, is that it is a composition, just like a musical composition, and it's going to go until it's done. And then the Hawaiian boys will say, okay, thank you, and we're going to move on. This is brought to you by Heidi Jeub's Pottery Studio, you know, and so that's kind of what I want to say for now. That's what came out of me. So, any questions?
So how long ago did you do these?
I did those in 2011.
What other forms did the library take?
That piece, that alone, that piece was actually this size, but on its side, because these stretchers are the same ones that I used. I did about 20 pieces that had to do with laundry or cycles. So I had some abstract pieces that were dealing with sun cycles and storm cycles and stuff like that. But they were actually more along the lines of some of these pieces over here. And so, but I was doing the laundry series as as commentary on simplicity and technology, and because we were kind of coming out of an election cycle that was the the rhetoric was going into the area of, you know, bring the technology and all this, so bring the jobs, whatever. And it's good that they were having those conversations, but at the same time I was watching one neighbor working for Crestliner, the other one working for Larson, and these boats, these expensive boats, just, I mean, they only know how to fix one part of it, you know, or to create one part of it, and they were in denial that they were going to lose their jobs. And so we're talking about technology as the cure-all, but then at the same time simplicity might have been a conversation we had. But that's something we have on a local scale because, you know, you don't make any money eating laundry, you know. But so it was one of the simplest ways to have that conversation, to at least let my statement be that. Where I could trick somebody into looking at it and being nostalgic, and then all of a sudden questioning, well, why is it tricky, and why is it this or that, you know? And so it was kind of a nice opportunity to do a series like that, and then it was all made like monoprints using actual clothing, mixing the paint and the clothing, and slapping them up against each other and creating this stuff. It was really great, and that took me, you know, 9 months to do, or at least to work through the process. You know, it's a lot of studying, you know, files and files of laundry. I haven't done laundry since. I'd say I was kidding about that.
Do you generally work in series?
Yeah, yeah. I kind of have to. Like, I have to, like, it's almost like pent up energy.
Okay.
And so, like, when I did the houses, I did that over the winter when the snowstorms were hitting. And I live by Munstinger. My studio is the Flatiron, so that's about a 6-block walk. And the only days that nobody bugged me was when they were out shoveling. So I would tromp my way over the snow and get to the studio, and I just locked myself away. And it was the best time to paint. And what was interesting was I made this joke of, see, I am a realist, because look outside, and this is what it looks like, you know? And so I loved that weather, and I'm probably one of the few, but it was a very calm experience. So when I was doing this, I was getting very interested in the rooftops, the spaces, like how the snow was hitting them, and then then I'd integrate some colors. So it's like, well, you know, it took, like this one here ended up taking on sort of a springtime feel, because technically it was spring, and so that was a series, and then I closed that down, and I was already starting to work into something else. And so I'm very conscious of where it's going, and then I say, okay, well, this is really interesting, because I think I ended up going into these pieces here, and that's where the systems were kind of coming into play, which also added in this direction, in these directions. So they kind of overlap, but I'm not a show up to my studio and paint for 5 hours kind of person. I have to, like, block out chunks of time, so. But that's part of my job, too, because my job will require 3 months to work on a project, and then I'll have 1 month to, like, you know, it's my vacation, you know. So that's kind of how I have to work it. So I would love to go in every day, but I don't know if I produce the way I do. I don't think I would do it the same way.
When you're working with your grids, are your numbers either vertically or horizontally conscientious?